There we go. Okay,
right.
we're in. We are
And here we
live.
go. The main
Neko versus
set.
CHEEZWHIZ.
This is right actually next to the match that we just saw, and we're going to be getting into it very, very quickly. As Neko already sending over a huge amount of damage, CHEEZWHIZ pushed almost all the way to the top and looking for some skims here just to stay alive.
Yeah, as we saw in the last game, it seems like there's an offensive player and a defensive player, and it seems like Neko is going to be taking off the lead as the offense for now.
Yeah, again, the speed diff coming into play here. We've got 3.9 PPS up against 3.2, and that makes a difference because if you're sending faster, you're sending more. That is a direct correlation, and Neko just proving how effective that speed can be as they stack up 6 back-to-back in the blink of an eye, and now just has a huge amount of damage that's being sent over to CHEEZWHIZ, and CHEEZWHIZ has a huge amount of downstacking to do in response, setting up this fractal too on top of the clean garbage to get a counter spike going, and Cheese actually managed to send quite a bit of cheese over to Neko's board.
Yeah, CHEEZWHIZ was in a little bit of a precarious spot, but they're able to fix it up, and Neko is the one that's forced to downstack now. CHEEZWHIZ going for a big STSC, but they don't even need to take it as they take the first round against Neko.
Alright, and we're going to have to see if Cheese is able to hold off that pressure as well in future matches, or if Neko's going to be doing some adaptation. This is a crazy opener from Neko! What was that?
I can't even begin to describe what I saw on Neko's board, but it was really
it's
freaking
working!
cool.
Oh my god, Cheese with a great downstack to survive whatever the heck we just saw. And that was an absolutely wild start to a round. Gonna have to ask Neko about that one later. That was that was absolutely insane, and was actually a very clean resolution too. Converted very well into some power stacking afterwards, and going to net them the win at the end of when it's all said and done.
Yeah, CHEEZWHIZ, honestly, if CHEEZWHIZ was board watching during that, I would have been like completely psyched out. Like, what did they just do? But you know what? They're focusing up for the next one. CHEEZWHIZ going into SDPC with a bit of extensions, able to cancel out pretty well. But Neko's the one with the back-to-back 6, and CHEEZWHIZ pushed to the top of their board here.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed so far, Neko's play is so clean. You almost never see garbage lines on Neko's board, but you do almost that yellow number starting to build. The back-to-back is absolutely impeccable, imneckable, I might say, as we get this extended opener. But speaking of extended,
going into DPC here.
Yeah.
Doesn't find the PC for some reason, but choosing to build back-to-back instead, I suppose.
And there we go. Cheese getting a great start to that round, especially considering how that last one went. Now going to have a lot of clean garbage to work with. Going to accept some more and start sending. Here we go. This is the counter spike action. This is right where Cheese wants to be. And Neko's board is looking a little rough. Not going to have a clean way to keep this back-to-back going. Gets a TSS quad, but again, Cheese just going to be sitting pretty on all this clean garbage.
Absolutely, yeah. Neither player has too much back-to-back at the moment, I will say. But CHEEZWHIZ doesn't even need it. 17 spike over to Neko. Neko pushed to the top, trying to find a down stack, but unable to. CHEEZWHIZ tying up the game very masterfully here. You might even say that they are a whiz. Oh,
one might say. And speaking of which, we have got Neko absolutely whizzing through this opener. Another crazy opener, but doing it at 4 PPS. Clearly something learned, and that is great garbage to do that opener with. Converting into the C-spin, back-to-back ×5, all in a spike. This is absolutely ridiculous APM coming out. And now back-to-back ×8 as they convert, but Cheese largely unfazed, not actually going to be too hurt by that. And Neko making some misdrops at the top that could actually spell their demise.
Yeah, CHEEZWHIZ unfortunately didn't really have the punish there, lacking back-to-back or a way to properly attack. But trying to fix that now, back-to-back 4 on both sides, CHEEZWHIZ breaking, and Neko as well. Yeah, it seems like players are opting to go for the more defensive and safe play instead of greeting for that back-to-back.
And hey, I can't say that I blame him. If you are faced in a position like Cheese is right now, you would wish you had made some safer choices too, as Neko brings it up to 3-2.
Yeah, it's still a long game, a lot of rounds left here. CHEEZWHIZ is gonna have to start adapting to Neko's playstyle if they want to come on top. It seems like SCPC from both players going for different continuations, but yeah, I don't know, it's looking pretty even. Although Neko breaking this back-to-back could be bad for them as they're forced to build up yet again.
Yeah, but build it up they do, and we're already back to time 6, time 7 right as I say that, and Cheese has no back-to-back to be found, does have a lot of clean garbage though, and they are going to manage to get that quad just in time to stay in this match. And now get a nice combo off, but just as they get that combo to start, their life might be at an end if Neko keeps his pressure up. Not going to be able to though. Cheese's down stack going to put an end to that back-to-back chain right as it begins, and now Neko is the one who's on the back foot.
Yeah, oh, as you say that though, Neko's huge 17 spike to CHEEZWHIZ, but CHEEZWHIZ cancels somehow. Oh my god. Yeah, CHEEZWHIZ determined not to lose this round, sending back a 10 spike and a 6 spike in response. Back-to-back 5 is gonna mean that CHEEZWHIZ ties up the game here.
Yeah, the effort that Cheese had to go through to get that kill was insane. Neko almost lived to the very end, and Cheese just held strong and managed to endure all of the insane amounts of pressure. Finally pull out a counter spike to take the win, and Cheese might be looking to do just that once more as they've got a lot of clean garbage, and Neko is looking very cheesed up. This is exactly where Cheese wants you, as the name might imply, and now Neko is going to have to do some down stacking of their own.
Yeah, Neko has a lot of clean garbage to work with though. Oh, big spike from CHEEZWHIZ means that they're not able to take any kind of big attack and use all of it for canceling, unfortunately. Neko does have a way out though, it seems. CHEEZWHIZ breaking back to back in order to fix up their board. Not a bad play, although Neko does have some cheese to work with.
Yeah, and now Neko's trying to get out and manages to do so and has a lot of clean garbage to boot. Cheese, though, at the very bottom of the board, not going to be too troubled by any spikes Neko sending over, but Spike Neko is, as we get some back-to-back once again starting to build. This is a very clean stack from Neko, and now we are getting Cheese in a very rough spot, unfortunately not going to be able to recover.
Yeah, Cheese got a little bit too cheesed up there. I mean, both players are really focusing hard on keeping a clean board, but if the cheese is too much, there's really nothing you can do if you're not able to find that down stack solution that you need.
Alright, and here we go. Now we've got CHEEZWHIZ actually was on the back-to-back there, but going to cancel out of it and opt for just some clean down stacking. And Neko has some misdrops to work through over on their side. Manages to do so and get a multiplier quad out of it, but will it be enough to deter Cheese? It might be, as Cheese, dealing with some misdrops of his own, not going to be in the best stack to defend, but manages to find a combo at the crucial moment to stay in this round.
I think if CHEEZWHIZ was one piece away from that one that he needed, he probably would have been dead. Still managing to hold on just a little bit more. Neko trying to find a punish, but unable to, as CHEEZWHIZ stays in the game for now, but Neko's offense is building up slowly.
Alright, and here we go. Neko has a great stack, and at the bottom of the board, that is exactly what you want to see, and Cheese not going to be able to stop that back-to-back train from getting rolling. That is going to be 5-3. Neko just barely starting to pull away, but if Cheese can keep it even, we may see that deuce and that +2 on the first two come into play.
Absolutely, yeah, PCO from both players, but Neko finding the delayed PC into DPC a little bit too late to get that DPC off, but doesn't matter because they're able to find enough lines to top out CHEEZWHIZ. They can get 6-3.
Yeah, may actually have had that PCO PC, not quite sure, but still managed to get enough out of the opener to make it work. And speaking of opener, again, we've got this, like, ISO TSD opener coming out from Neko, but that's a really bad misdrop.
Oh, no.
Manages to save it, though, and just left with so much clean on the counter spike. Cheese, though, with some back-to-back of his own, making a bit of a greedy decision, thought better of it, and decided to just cancel out. And now Neko has room to absolutely get going here. Opens up the well, gets that TSD quad, and Cheese is just being pushed up, not really able to find a way back into that round.
Yeah, Neko's momentum is beginning to carry on along the rounds. Cheese was needing to find some kind of way to either fix up their board better or send faster than Neko. Neko doing their classic thing, unfortunately misdropping, but finding a fancy solution out of it. I really like that one.
Yeah, almost had multiplier too. That was actually wild. And Neko going to have a very clean dono over the well there to maintain just a little bit of back-to-back. CHEEZWHIZ, though, accepting that clean garbage in stride, pun intended, as Cheese is just absolutely going through this garbage. Opens up the well one more time, gets a nice TSD donation and the quad to boot. Neko, though, has this eyepiece tower over the garbage well, and that's not going to bode well for the future, sitting on a very rough stack at the moment, and Cheese would have to capitalize now. And capitalize he does, but not soon enough, and now Neko is back in it.
Yeah, I will say CHEEZWHIZ's board was a little bit messy at the bottom, but they decided to build on top of it instead and forgo the cheese in order to send more attack, but unfortunately wasn't quite enough to top out Neko. Back to a fairly even board state between both players. CHEEZWHIZ trying to build up against Neko's huge fractal into a 26 spike. CHEEZWHIZ able to cancel it very masterfully though, keeping himself alive and in the game for now.
Yeah, and now CHEEZWHIZ is again just forced into a corner. We see time and time again, if Neko is given the space, given the time to stack up, then Neko can absolutely decimate, but CHEEZWHIZ is going to see that miss drop and not give them any time at all.
It is truly the smallest decisions and the singlest things that you notice on the opponent's board that can really influence a player's decision on when to attack, when to downstack, when to cancel, etc. There's a lot of stuff that I can't even begin to comprehend that's going through these players' heads right now. But what's going through the players' boards is CHEEZWHIZ back-to-back 7, 8, 9 onto Neko's board. Neko able to cancel, trying their best to find the survival, and find that they do, but CHEEZWHIZ's back-to-back 12 is enough to take another round for them here.
That LSC was formulaic in the best sense of the word. 220 APM of non-stop pressure is going to be more than enough to stop pretty much anyone, and that is Neko included for that round. Can they do it again though? Maybe not, as the back-to-back has already been broken and Neko is sitting pretty on so much clean garbage now. If only they can access it. Starting to build up some back-to-back, but unfortunately forced to break it before they can open up that well. Makes a nice forecast with that J-Skim, but not going to do any huge damage to CHEEZWHIZ at the moment.
Yeah, CHEEZWHIZ very nice cancel here. Able to find a back-to-back 3, and that 13 spike from CHEEZWHIZ is enough to punish Neko for their subpar board state there. I do believe Neko was greeting a little bit more for that attack and paid dearly for it.
Yeah, and now what was something of a runaway has suddenly become much closer. We've got DPC on both sides. Both players going to find the solve with the TSS. We are very even. PCO from both players. They find the solve once more. This is the same on both sides. We've got the DPC, but it's slower.
Coming on top with a double TP's misdrop, allowing Neko to stay in the game. That was ridiculous. Oh my...
Absolutely insane round. Crisis on both boards as Neko unable to do that spin for the solve. The help me please gif absolutely rolling in its grave. Promo shudders from across the world, but CHEEZWHIZ unfortunately not going to be able to convert off that DPC, and it ends up costing them dearly.
Yeah, it seems like Neko's got a little bit of misdrops they have to fix on their board, but they are a very creative player, able to find some pretty decent ways out of it. CHEEZWHIZ not quite in a position to punish just yet, but this big open well could mean that CHEEZWHIZ has some sauce to send over.
Oh
sauce
my!
To send. 10 spike from CHEEZWHIZ. Neko still doing not too bad. Completely open well for them. It is Neko's turn to put on the offense to CHEEZWHIZ.
Oh, that is great garbage. That was absolutely perfect, right under the well there. And now Neko is just starting this chain once more, but CHEEZWHIZ not going to let that happen. It sends a massive counter spike over. Neko responds in kind though with that back-to-back ×2 into the donated TSD. And CHEEZWHIZ not having the right pieces at that moment to open up the down stack. And that's going to be 9-6. Neko only 2 away from moving on in Group F of the pools.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about offense and defense, but it truly matters in this game. You'd think it was just stacking blocks, but no, there's a lot that goes into it. And speaking of things that go into it, CHEEZWHIZ sending a lot of cheese going over to Neko, but Neko's able to cancel it off pretty efficiently here.
Yeah, Neko might have been looking for the mid-game PC there for a moment to pause and maybe count the Minos on the board, but unable to find it, and CHEEZWHIZ now is in something of a great position, if I do say so myself. Being on a lot of back-to-back and a lot of clean garbage is a good combination, and Cheese is going to just put it to its maximum extent. Still building, back-to-back ×7 already, ×8, and this is CHEEZWHIZ on the offensive like we've never seen before. Opens it up, but Neko just absolutely schmoving right now. The burst speed is going crazy, higher than the PPS reads, you better believe it, and Neko going to survive that onslaught from CHEEZWHIZ.
Yeah, I will say CHEEZWHIZ's donations in that game are very, very nice. On the 9-0 well, it's kind of hard to find good attacks, but if you're able to do a lot of donations to open up the well afterwards, you are able to get some good attacks. And good attacks, speaking of them, CHEEZWHIZ sending over a nice little spike to Neko. Neko able to cancel though, continuing the pressure. Oh, Neko trying to find a T-spin, does find it. But CHEEZWHIZ looking for said donations like I mentioned before. Not quite enough to top out Neko though.
Yeah, and speaking of Neko, Neko's board is a little bit awkward at the moment. Has some cheese over the clean. Manages to find a very interesting TSS skim to figure that one out, but unfortunately not going to be able to preserve the back-to-back that they got as a result of it. And now, again, the cheese is starting to build. That's a rough misdrop from Neko, and this is CHEEZWHIZ's moment to shine. Not having a ton ready to send, and Neko is going to start making their way down through that cheese, and that could have been a missed opportunity from CHEEZWHIZ. Still has this 5 back-to-back, but not going to be able to hold on to it, and that misdrop on the L piece is very poorly timed right as Neko gets the counter spike. That's going to bring it to match point Neko.
Yeah, I will say Neko's way of down stacking the cheese just in time before CHEEZWHIZ could send was huge, because after the cheese was gone, they had all the clean to send back. Alright, seems like Neko doing their signature fancy stuff on their opener. CHEEZWHIZ does one PC, not able to find the second though. And Neko's huge double T-spin 14 spike over to CHEEZWHIZ leaves CHEEZWHIZ with a lot of clean garbage to capitalize with.
Yeah, and CHEEZWHIZ, though, going to make an interesting stacking decision, which may end up costing them.
Oh, CHEEZWHIZ needs to find this down stack, but they're unable to, and Neko's 15 spike is going to be taking them the game for this Tetrio. Wow, that was honestly fantastic from both players, but it seems like Neko's way of down stacking, creative T-spins, and sending back-to-back is going to bring them out for the top for this game.